Live, chap. We're waiting for Neil. He's going to be with us very shortly, we're sure. Starting off a little bit differently because we are obviously looking at the Zoopla House Price Index report that was published today. So while a few people wait and join us, should we just appreciate the background music, which is a new feature on StreamYard that we thought we'd bring to the party? I feel like I'm very relaxed for this chat. Sanjay, Tristan, what about yourselves?
Bit too relaxed.
Sanjay was all for it.
Yeah, no, I'm all for it. I'm all for a bit of music.
We can turn it off at any time. If people are listening and they think, actually, these guys are sending me to sleep with this lovely lift and elevator music, and we're happy to turn it off. But we thought, why not bring a little bit of sensuality to the Thursday evening? Like I say, Neil's going to be with us shortly, but while people join, we're across a couple of different channels, so please do like and comment. Let us know that you're in the background. Let us know you can hear us okay. And I'm going to come to Sanjay first because I know you've been hectic. How are things, Sanjay?
Bonkers. Absolutely bonkers, as Ellen likes to say. How do I describe what this market is like? I don't think, well, put it this way, last 2 years been bonkers, right? I didn't think it's going to carry on like this. It's probably got even more bonkers since the start of January, especially for Ellen and I. Buyers I feel sorry for buyers at the moment, if I'm being honest with you. Sellers are getting top money in the selection of buyers, but yeah, I think the whole thing in general is just a bit crazy.
I think it is crazy at the moment, and the reason why I've got this stat up there or slide up there is because it will come to it in a second, but it shows how crazy it actually is right now this month. Tristan, I know you got a little bit of a tickle. I know you got a negative on your COVID test, so it's not that. But you're not near me. You're not near Sanjay, and you can't catch anything through the mic, which is always good. Oh, here we go. I've got a call coming in. I'll call you back later, Dad. So how's the rental market? Is it just as bonkers?
Exactly the same as what Sanjay said. It's unfortunate for those tenants that are looking. It's just crazy busy. I had an appointment yesterday, 9 viewings. Come on at a good price of $1,850, had 6 offers, and we've had offers over £2,000 on it. So people are doing what they have to do to try and get properties, and it's certainly a good market to be in for a landlord especially. But just sort of touching on that though, we'll go through it shortly, I'm sure, but there was a Rightmove report today talking about yields, so that the best they've been since 2016 across England, which is obviously great news as well for anyone looking to purchase a buy-to-let.
Yeah, it's a very interesting market because you can't at the moment highlight any area of it that is underperforming or weak. I think if you go up to Scotland or you look at maybe apartments in London, it's a bit different, but where we are in the home counties, there is nothing that's weak. Here he is. Here's Mr. Neil.
Nice to join us, mate.
Yeah, talking about busy markets, and obviously you've been busy today, Neil. But
perfect.
Just before I come to you, so just to highlight why I've started with this slide for everyone. What we're looking at, as I said, is the published Zoopla House Price Index that came today. Now, I know it's quite small, but just down here, it's January 2019, and this is for buyer demand. Ignore the multiple lines. It's the difference of London, outside of London apartments and houses, but they all in theme make the same shape, as you can see. Now, over the last 3 years, this is what's happened as we kind of hit start of the pandemic, as the housing market reopened, and then stamp duty got extended, and it sort of popped off here. But this is January. This is the last 3 weeks, live data. It's actually the last 4 weeks worth of data. And look at the spike. It's as dominant as it's ever been this month in comparison to the last 3 years. And if we go back and look at where these spikes were, this was when the stamp duty holiday was there. This is when people could save up to £15,000, and it's busier now, knowing you have to pay up to £15,000 or more on more properties because prices have gone up. And I think that highlights the word bonkers might be the theme of the show, but that's how bonkers it is at the moment, Neil. Are you experiencing the same thing, bud?
Yeah, I've literally used the word bonkers so many times this week. So it's funny you use that. And I'm just saying to people, you guys have seen the amount of inquiries that I've got coming on individual houses, and I think one of the properties had about 60 inquiries. So it is literally bonkers. I launched another one at 9 o'clock this morning, and my open house on Sunday is already full up. And yeah, it's the demand is just ridiculous. And those graphs, I mean, it's evident. We're out there on the field, so to speak, and we feel it. But that's actually quite interesting to see that the stats are really, showing exactly how we're feeling.
Yeah, it's backing it up, isn't it? I think one of the reasons, and just as I'm saying hello to a few people, Chris has said hello, Ellen said hello, Mike said hello. Even on YouTube, we've got Sister19LOL.online is saying hello as well.
Yeah, I was about to say it's Dan's follower, isn't it?
Either that's Dan's follower or just don't click that link. I'm not sure where it's going to take you. And then we've got a couple of questions coming in as well, which we're going to go to. But just while we're kind of sharing the Zoopla house price index, I just thought I'd show this as well, because this is the summary of. And what we're looking at here is a 12-month growth across the UK of 7.4%. We've got 49% uplift in comparison to any point in the last 3 years for demand of properties. So it just shows that if you compare January over the last 3 years, it's up. No, 4 years. If you compare January over the last 4 years for the last 4 weeks, it's up in comparison to any time. And then if we look here, we see supply, that minus 15% means there's 15% less properties on. So I often find that on these chats, we talk a lot about the same thing, but that's because the data remains to be the same for the last few months. And I wanted to just show the information that we get and where we get it from, and that it's not just hot air estate agency chatter, it's actually going on here. And if we go down to the UK map, which is a scroll down, hopefully everyone can see that. What we can see just here is the Southeast as 7.3% increase across the last 12 months in comparison to London, which is 2.3. So that's how dominant things are at the moment in our patch, in our area, which is great. So let's just get to a couple of these questions. We've got Chris. Sanjay, I'm going to come to you, but quick question. What tips would you give a person selling before viewings start? I know you're a big fan of staging a property for videos, but just for viewings as well and open houses. I know you, Ellen, Dan and Neil, Tristan with your rental properties, all of us are big fans of open houses when done right. So what tips would you give to someone thinking of selling before they start viewings?
I'll give you a prime example. I did an open house on the weekend, and the seller, I said to him, if you can get your house smelling nice and warm, especially in this weather, they literally lit about 30 candles. It was great. I felt so relaxed in that home, and everyone else that walked in felt exactly the same. Like, to have a feeling, if you're a buyer out there at the moment and walk through a door and just feel straight away at ease and comfortable, it's literally the biggest thing, I think, personally. It's that first impression, right? And obviously you can generally tidy up and stuff, but that, I think, for me was a very, very good tip, and I'll carry that through for the rest of my career. Yeah,
a nice smell just does wonders to your instant feeling. And everyone says you buy a property with a feeling, and yeah, it does a good win. What about you, Neil? What's your kind of tips that you give your sellers when they're starting viewings?
I use the same line every time: keep it clear and clutter free, and it making sure you can see the floor space. I know there's not people that have floor drobes out there necessarily, but making sure you can see how spacious each room is. Don't have unnecessary items clogging up the middle of the lounge or things like that. But yeah, I'd agree with Sanjay, making sure it smells nice. I'm dealing with one at the moment where it was tenanted and it was just a terrible smell for some reason in one of the bedrooms. And so he's had the cleaners in, he's had air fresheners going on, he's had it aired out, and it makes a big, big difference. And I said to him, I was like, fair play, you've actually sorted it out. But no, just having it clutter free. And I think we're still in that time of year where there's leaves everywhere, it's miserable outside, it's dark early. So light bulbs, making sure your light bulbs are actually working, because I've been to so many houses where they don't. You go in, if it's vacant, people kind of forget about them. It's cold, it's dark, it's miserable, and it smells.
The worst combination.
No,
the worst. If
do the opposite of that, basically. Have it smelling nice and fresh. And I agree with Sanjay. If
properties were top trumps, that one was not winning many rounds. Absolutely not. Tristan, what about yourself? Your landlords, let's say they've had tenants, the tenants have moved out, they're about to start viewings. what advice would you give to landlords before viewings start?
Just make sure it's clean and tidy. As Neil said, clutter free if it is tenanted. Thankfully, the tenants we've had have been quite generous and helpful and have made it as clear free as possible. Obviously, with the exception of they might be in the middle of moving. But yeah, just make it as clear as possible. Make sure the lights are working. Last thing you want is a bathroom with no window and no light working. You can't really see much otherwise. So yeah, lights working and clutter free.
Yeah, and
my iPhone Touch.
iPhone Torch, yeah.
Yes.
As the last tip that I would give to anyone that's starting viewings as well, as a very alpha male, definitely get some flowers, because flowers are just lovely. They make a big difference to photos. They make a big difference to the video, and that sort of aroma. But just that fresh flower, not one, but fresh flowers, definitely makes a big difference. So. Yeah, cheers for that, Chris. Great question. We've got a question from Mike here as well. Gent, same numbers of houses, same number of people. How come there is suddenly a lack of supply? So it's a good question. So we know there's less properties coming to the market, but why? Why are there less properties coming to the market? We've mentioned about stamp duty holiday and the fact that I think a lot of people brought their moves forward for the stamp duty holiday to save on the tax. And as a result now, a lot of those people have moved that maybe would have moved. But any other reasons that anyone can think of? Sanjay, I'll come back around to you first, outside of stamp duty, to why maybe people aren't moving at the moment.
I've had a couple of conversations. I've been on a lot of valuations this month, and a lot of people are saying they don't want to move until they come up to their end of their fixed term mortgage, which might be December, it might be next year. That could be one of the reasons. Another reason is because they kind of want to wait and to see if the market still goes upwards in terms of prices. Someone asked me the other day, is it better for me to sell towards the end of this year or early next year? Will the prices keep going up as they have done the last 2-3 years? We don't know, obviously, but the trends are looking in that direction. So, it's a gamble, but yeah, a couple of reasons. Yeah,
good points, actually. Tristan, what about yourself? Why? What we're seeing at the moment is twice as many landlords selling as buying. So although there's a lack of supply in the landlord market, there's more people selling than there is buying, which is obviously why there's a lack of supply in rental. But what about overall? What do you think? Is there any reasons why you might think the market, there's less properties coming to the market at the moment?
No, I think it's similar reasons to what Sanjay said. I'm having quite a few people register that haven't served notice on their property, and when I'm asking the reason why, their answer is, I've been looking for 7 or 8 months now, can't find what I want, I'm getting outbid by people, which we are seeing on a daily basis. So they're not ready to serve notice in the event of not wanting to not have a property to live in, and not finding, basically. So it's putting pressure on people. So when properties do come to market, or we get a property that we know will meet their requirements, it's going off market deals most of the time. And that's just causing that sort of effect because properties aren't technically hitting the market in most cases. I do think that will change in the next sort of 6 months or so, because I am working with a number of investors that are looking to do let to buys and buying on buy to lets as well. So I have seen a massive increase, probably more than I've seen in the last couple of years, in the past 2 months. So I think once those sales start coming through, I'm sure I'm not the only person witnessing this. I'm sure it'll start sort of coming through with more properties to offer.
And Neil, it can't be finances, because I know we'll talk about interest rates in a minute. We're going to talk about, are we in a bubble or is it the reality, the housing market? Because the reason why I want to ask that is on a lot of the social platforms where I give a lot of tips to sellers and to buyers, Instagram, TikTok, various different places, YouTube. Some of the comments that I get, negative comments that I get, which I smile at sometimes, is, the market's not... other than the eyebrows and the grey hair, so many people keep saying to me, everyone's going to be in negative equity soon, the bubble's going to burst. And I always ask the question, why do you think that? I never get a response from 12698pantsman.com, but I'd love to know what it is, and it'd be interesting. So it's not finances, Neil, but any other reasons why there's less properties on the market? We're talking about 15% less properties coming to the market. If you actually look at the data and show how many less properties there's for sale, it's over 40%. So we know that because properties are selling faster, therefore there's more sold than for sale. But actually, 15% less people coming into the market. Any other reasons why you think that might be the case?
I think there is, like Tristan touched on there, and it's interesting, just a quick point, that whenever I've been in a marketplace that's fluctuated, if the lettings market is good, the sales market is normally rubbish, and vice versa. It normally flips.
Yeah.
But Tristan's quite evidently busy, we're busy, and it's just a very odd market where people, they're not panic buying, but people are fed up with missing out, so they are paying over the odds. But in answer to your question, I think that there's a lot more off-market deals being done than ever, not only with us, but with other agents. Obviously, we're massive on off-market deals or beat the portals, so stuff that's just used via social media. But I think there's a lot more going on in the background as well. So sales are still going on, but there's just less stock being shown visibly as available, which is quite interesting to see. But I think there's a lot of people, like Sanjay said, there's people waiting for their fixed term. There's people that are questioning what might happen if the interest rates go up, and let's face it, they drop to the most ridiculous levels they can. So I think people kind of got a bit excited with going, well, I can borrow this much, but in theory, if they go back up to the rates that they were before, can you still borrow that much? So people are reluctant to just jump into it, which is rightly so. You need to be prepared in the sense that if it does go up in 5 years, can you afford to live in that house that you've just stretched your budget to? Yeah. And I think that's where people are taking a bit more time. They're a bit more reserved. I never like to say time on year. I hate using the idea of time on year because I don't think there's ever a good time or a bad time to sell in a year. January's been crazy. Obviously, we've all experienced that. And I think there is people that sort of hold out till Easter, spring, and things look a little bit nicer. The weather's literally just about to start turning, and people might just be waiting out for that as well. But yeah,
this is a crazy one because you mentioned there about rents, and rents are obviously increased massively. I think 13% was the right move statistic recently. But you can rent a property for £1,500, Tristan. £1,500 a month you can rent a property for, but you might only be able to get a mortgage for £850 a month, which is a bit crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's prices are just for lettings are just gone crazy. I've seen massive price increases on especially family homes, as £200-300. But affordability is quite strict. You have to earn a minimum of 30 times to meet those requirements. Going back to our podcast the other day, which people will hear tomorrow, just plugging that again, we talk about what's happening with inflation, increase of prices, and what's going to happen to the rental market when people can still afford these rents. Be interested to see what happens from both sides.
There's a great podcast tomorrow, actually, with Peter Laverdos, who's one of the senior partners of Action Coach. So actually what we're talking tomorrow is from a landlord's eyes, but also from a business coach's eyes. So if anyone's got plans to grow a portfolio, start a portfolio, the actual techniques and sort of logical conversation that we have around how to get the confidence and the techniques to scale your portfolio and become a property investor or a landlord is a really good listen. So definitely check that out tomorrow. We mentioned about will the interest rates slow the market. Neil, you touched on them then. Obviously they're low at the moment. I've seen NatWest put pretty much all of their products up this week, and I think it was Barclays raised quite a few, but then last week HSBC dropped all of theirs. So we can't say they're going up or down at the moment because it's erratic, and still buy-to-let deals are ridiculous. Still, you can get some unbelievable 10% deposit deals. But do we think if rates do creep up a little bit, they will slow the market? They'll level the price increasing out, do you think, Neil?
I think people will, without sounding rude, people will just understand that they need to stay in their lane and don't push themselves. I think the market will always move, but what we've noticed, and again, this is very different to most markets, but whether it's a one-bed flat or a multi-million-pound house, they're selling quickly, and they're selling at asking price as a minimum, which again is just odd. People with every different budget are buying houses. But I think if interest rates start to go up, ultimately people will just look at it and go, well, let's not stretch ourselves to that. Let's be a bit more reserved and go for this. But I don't think it will slow the market down, because interest rates are still low. The demand is still there.
Yeah, there's always really there's 5 factors. I think over 2 decades of doing this job, people say to me, that people are going to stop moving, or people are going to lock in, and no one's going to do this, that, and the other. When the negative there comes around, it's not at the moment. There's 5 things that happen, and some of them are sad, and a lot of them are sad. But these are the factors, and these are the reason why people move. And this will always be there. Is you've got death, you've got debt, you've got divorce, you've got babies, and you've got work. And they're the 5 factors that mean the market will always be open. The market will always be moving. And even when it was shut down in the middle of COVID for the first time on record, the market was still moving, because we were still talking to people. They wanted to buy, they wanted to rent, they wanted to let, and they wanted to sell. And even though it wasn't happening actively, it was happening in the background, because the market is not what happens on Rightmove. We are the market. And whether people like estate agents, don't like estate agents, whether they like us, whether they're confused, the fact is the estate agent is the market, because we are the communicator between the person looking to sell, even before they've put their property on the market, and the buyer looking to find. Rightmove is not the market, we are the market. And another estate agent actually said that to me a week or so ago, because we were talking about the Beat the Portals. And it's not selling off market, because we are the market. And I completely agreed with that. When we try and find someone a property, as we call off market, in reality we're not. We're just trying to find them a property off portals. We're trying to exclusively find them a property, and we are the market. So it's exciting to be involved. And at the moment we want to keep getting the data on the ground to everyone. Andy's just jumped in. He said, "Evening, gents. Sorry, joining late. Been doing deals in Slough." It's going on everywhere. It's going on.
Flying drones in Slough.
Yeah. Dan's asked a question, interesting question here. If you have multiple offers, what's the best way for your seller to choose? Love this question, because it's happening a lot at the moment. And before we talk about how to select the best solicitor when you do sell, let's talk about how you find the buyer before you get to the solicitor stage, because it's very difficult if you've got 4 offers on the table, 3 offers on the table, especially after the open houses we're talking about, to pick a buyer. So what's the criteria? I mentioned top trumps earlier. If buyers were top trump cards, what cards winning, and what are the criteria on the top trump cards to get that buyer to win? It's good for the buyer to know. It's also good for the sellers to know as well what questions to ask, especially if they're not using us, or they've made an error and they've signed up with another estate agent, and they want to know, right, what do I do when selecting a buyer? Sanjay, you had a massive weekend this weekend with open houses. What advice are you giving to your sellers when they've got multiple offers?
I'm a big fan of finding a buyer who's emotionally invested in your home. We had 7 offers, or I had 7 offers on mine. Ellen had another 5, I think, on hers this weekend. And there was a couple of buyers who, yes, money does come into it. Don't get me wrong. If you've got 7 offers, you're going to go with a higher offer. Position does come into it. But I'm a big believer, if you've got someone who's literally fallen in love with your home, you have to understand, as the process is, you've still got 2, 3, 4, 5 months in the legal process. And you do want, I'm almost like damage limitation. If you find a buyer who's emotionally invested in your home, you're going to have a lot less issues come up throughout the process. And obviously, because we are there 24/7 from start to finish in the process, I think that's a massive part of it. There is other factors as well, which I'm sure Neil or Tristan or yourself will carry on and explain. But that's for me is a big one.
I think when you're emotionally invested, and we get the feeling, we understand which buyers are super proactive, or sometimes you get a gut feeling that you've got a buyer that's asking the sort of questions where maybe they're asking it on a couple of properties, and they're kind of, sort of hedging their bets, and they're not completely committed to one. You get that feeling after a few years of who's doing what and when. But yeah, emotions and getting that feeling that they see themselves living there, they visualize themselves moving in already, is a massive help to lock it in. And the evidence in how that's done, Sanjay, is there, because I think the third-party report that came out last week that we looked at showed that in 2021, of all the top 10 estate agents in the home counties, of which we sit within, we had the lowest fall-through ratio by an absolute country mile. All estate agents were either 20, 25, 30%, and we were way down at 16%. So, half what some of the others are. So that's how due diligent we do our research and our due diligence. And Neil, I would imagine, when you're putting an offer forward and when you're agreeing it to one, there is some due diligence that you like to do that helps that vendor make that decision.
Just keep saying that word and waiting for you to get it wrong.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that again. Due diligence.
No, definitely. I think, do you know what I've noticed? And we've all done this for a long time, but I've noticed that I've not had in a long time any, dare I say it, waste of time buyers register to view a property, in the sense that they're not prepared. Everyone that I speak to has got their agreement in principle and they're prepared. Whether they've been stung in the past because of how quickly the market is moving, it's a different story. But yeah, definitely we do our due diligence. Obviously, we question them in terms of their affordability, and in this market, everything's selling over asking price. So I do manage everyone's expectations at the start and say, look, just so you know, it's likely to go over asking price. Does that sit with your affordability? So again, they're prepared. There's no wall being pulled over anyone's eyes or anything like that. But ultimately, upon point of offer, we want brokers' details, agreement in principle if they've got it. I prefer, and Dan and I were talking to someone yesterday, I think it might have been Dom actually, on our live chats, but we were talking about how we actually love speaking to the broker. If you've got a broker in place, you've done your bit, fine. Obviously, we've got brokers, but we don't force anyone on anyone. If you're prepared, they've done their due diligence, and speaking to a broker, you get real confidence and comfort knowing that they've done everything they need to and they're prepared for it. We're very thorough before we even take a property off the market, in the sense of the ID checks, solicitors formally being instructed and everything like that. So again, in terms of your top trumps, be prepared on those points. Know that I mean, our buyers recently have been great. They've got their scanned copies of their driving license or passport ready to go. They know who they're going to use for the solicitor. They've got their broker's details ready. And I ping out, you guys know what I'm like with my stencil emails. I ping out my stencil email saying, if you want this property to come off the market, you need to do X, Y, and Z. And like Sanjay said there, when you've found someone that's got that connection to the property, they're buying with their heart, their head, and their pocket, they are quick to turn that around to secure the property. And you get a feel for if it's going in the right direction quite quickly, in the sense of, right, hold on a minute, they're dragging their heels, or you've put the offer forward or put the offer acceptance forward and they're not as energized as you'd expect or anything like that. So you do get a feel for it. But we're very thorough. You've got to do X, Y, Z before that property comes off the market. And let's face it, in this market, we've probably got 5 or 6 backup buyers if you drag your heels. Yeah. But in terms of top trumps, I would say have everything ready, have those brokers' details to hand, know that you're going to be doing ID checks, at least fished around for some solicitors. So we've got ones that we recommend, but at least be prepared in the sense of knowing what you're looking at costs wise. Obviously, if you're working with our guys, like we work really close with Dom, obviously the mortgage advisor that we work with, and he's brilliant. He's straight on it. And if it's someone that he's already dealt with, buyers that are out looking with us, we just love that. That's obviously, we've got confidence in what he's doing. So that's top tier of Trump's level.
Yeah, like those. So Tristan, what we're getting from that is that this tick list. So for landlords, what about for tenants? So quickfire checklist. So for sales, we're saying connection, emotions. We're saying deposit percentage has a bit of an impact. Conversation with a mortgage advisor is important. It's vital for the estate agent to have that chat. Also, what lender they're using, I think, is also important, because just from background knowledge, knowing which lenders are going to be slow, fast, or maybe they're using a certain lender because there's a credit related issue. So you can pick up on that quite easily as well. And then timescales is always a key question. Does it marry up with your timescales? Are they in rented and they need to be in 8 weeks and you haven't found yet? That's not the right buyer for you because the timescales don't stack up. What about for landlords? What are the kind of quick fire checklist of criteria to get that tenant to be the top of the top trumps?
Yeah, I think from our side, it's slightly different to how the sales guys see it, because every circumstance is different from that perspective, whether it's owner occupied and they're moving away for work, or whether it's currently tenanted. So timescales is obviously a factor. How quickly can they move in from when the tenant leaves? Do they need to give notice or whatnot? So in the current market, a lot of people haven't given notice, but we are typically finding people are doing overlaps. So how quickly can someone move in? how quickly can they complete paperwork, which should really be done within 24 hours of offer going through. But we'll have everything from start to finish within 3 to 4 working days. So that's from offer accepted through to references completed through to signing the contract and paying funds. So if we're going to manage the property, it's all about, or if the landlord's going to obviously manage it themselves, it's making sure that they feel comfortable with the tenant as well. It's a relationship between the two. And if they want a long-term tenancy, depending on the circumstance, they need to have a good relationship. Because as we said in another podcast, communication is key within this business. If you want a tenant to stay there long-term, build a good relationship with them, keep in communication, and it will make it a stress-free service for you. And then the tenant will pay rent and they'll be there long-term, which is going to save you money in the long term.
Yeah, absolutely. How nice is it having that little background music, by the way? Is everyone enjoying that?
It's making me tired.
I'm in a waiting room for the dentist or something.
Yeah,
it's just sitting there, just doing its thing. I'm quite enjoying it. What about
Is it Sanjay's
listening?
lo-fi?
It's just subtly sat there. So in terms of little secret squirrels, what's everyone got on the bubble? Any new listings coming to the market that we should know about? Sanjay, coming to you first.
Can't tell you. They're so secretive. They're so secret. I've already got some of my lovely clients that potentially are going to buy some. So I can't say. But I have, just going back to Neil's early point, there's probably about, Ellen and I probably got 25, maybe 30% of our properties which haven't even touched Rightmove, which are all under offer. So that growth stat on Zoopla is probably wrong, because there is a lot. I've got a lovely 3-bedroom detached in Warfield coming up. These are rare and popular. No one would chain as well. It is going to be busy on that open house. I cannot wait. I've got a few other things. I've got a lovely 3-bedroom detached in Ascot coming up, actually, which is a very exciting one. Can't wait for that one to drop. I've also got a couple in Roman Hill in Bracknell. If people know Roman Hill and Bracknell, these houses are like gold dust. Both of the owners have been there 30 plus years. That just tells you that it's going to be very popular. There's lots of stuff going on. Like, if you're not on our social media, you're going to be missing out. So please do make sure you follow that. Yeah, absolutely. Neil, what about yourself? Anything on the bubble that we should know about?
Always, mate. Always up my sleeve, as always. No, as Sanjay said, obviously people watching now, if you aren't following us, make sure people get to know, and I think they've realised who covers what areas and how to follow and what to do. But the social media aspect is just popping off now, and our followers are growing and growing and growing. And I say the same to possible sellers when I go out and I obviously do an appraisal with them. The amount of followers that we've got that are watching us for new listings or shit banter, basically. That's the deal. There's a fine balance between the two. But yeah, there's a lovely 2-bedroom ground floor flat in Reading, ground floor apartment, literally half a mile from Reading Station. That one's going to be going to the market. I've already got people that have watched the Beat the Portals. I'm trying to view that, which is good. I've got another 4-bed detached coming on the market in Shinfield Meadows. Very, very popular. You guys know that we like Shinfield Meadows. That will be coming on the market next week. And I've got a 3-bed semi-detached in Spencer's Wood coming up, which it's a semi-detached and arguably the biggest of that sort of style or semi-detached 3-bed in this area. They're very popular, and that estate in particular demands a higher price than anywhere else just because they're huge. But yeah, always working on stuff.
And Tristan, I know you've been busy on lettings vows this month, your busiest month ever, out doing appointments. Anything that's not on Rightmove or our website yet that we can share with anyone that's watching?
So the ones I've got coming on are not going to be, I've got a big house, 4 beds, 2,800 square feet coming on for around April time. So if you are one of those tenants that's not served notice yet.
Where? Tell me where.
Towards Reading direction. I'm not going to give you too much information. They can wait. But if you are looking for a property, send me a DM and I might give you a bit more information. But 2,800 square feet, driveway parking, could easily get 4 cars there, garage. You got 3 reception rooms. It's massive. Nice spec as well. So yeah, send a DM if you're interested in that. I've got, once again, April time, another 4 beds coming up in Church Crookham. That's a 4-bed detached with garage as well. And I have got one coming in March time, subject to completion, which will be a 4-bed detached, once again in Neil's favourite patch in Shinfield Meadows.
Yeah, just have a drive around there. It looks lovely.
You see lots of books.
So quick fire round with Sean here. Are sellers accepting offers from buyers needing to sell who are not yet on the market? In previous years, this was a big no-no. What are your thoughts? So I guess if someone's on the market and they've got an open house on Saturday, there's 20 people booked in, are they going to accept an offer from someone not on the market? No is the answer, I would imagine. There's got to be special circumstances for that to happen. If the property is not on the market and someone else is not on the market, and we've been the market in this case, we've put it together, then potentially there's a case that they would accept their offer and allow them to sell as long as the price is right and they feel the emotional connection. They would be my 2 points on that. I don't know if anyone's got any other kind of examples in Quickfire that they could give. Sanjay, yourself?
Yes is the answer to off-market sales. It's what I was talking about earlier. If it's not going to be touching the market, we all go on valuations. The biggest thing people say is, I'm not going to put my house on the market until I find somewhere. Well, here we go. Here's an off-market chain. So in answer to your question, Sean, yes, in that scenario, open house, no chance. There's just no point.
Yeah. You're out of competition. When we look at that top trump, it's not going to work. As much as we'd love to help, we can't on that. We're looking for the next property, not that property. Neil, any other circumstances where it's a yay or a nay?
No, I would agree in the sense that, with all due respect, it's not going to happen. Again, like that one that I've got 60 odd inquiries on, and another one that's just gone bonkers today. I've openly said, look, I'm unfortunately going to have to turn people away that are in a good position, let alone someone that's not ready to go. And there's no point setting your expectations. But yeah, the only option really is off markets, and I think that's where our tactics come into play. And we always say this, and I say it to every possible seller. I love how we operate now, because we deal with the buyers, we deal with the sellers, we can connect those dots pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And yes, there's got to be that demand or that sort of that higher or better price. But again, as you said, Ian, that emotional connection is there. If it's someone that knows the house and knows that they're going to get something before anyone else, and it's not going to go to the market, they're likely to pay a better price, and they're buying, like I said earlier, with their heart, their head, and their pocket.
I do have a solution.
Yeah, go for it.
They could always let it out.
Yeah,
Do a let to buy.
Love that, Tristan. I think Ellen's comment that she made here slightly earlier on, but bonkers is my favourite word to describe this market. It's a great way to end how the market sits at the moment. Hopefully everyone enjoyed those slides, those graphs, and the chatter. Good conversation. I didn't even realise that it's nearly 20 to 7. So great conversation there. Thank you everyone for their questions. And obviously this video is available to watch for people that have not watched it live. So if you are one of those people, thank you for watching to the end. And if you've got questions for us, still fire it in the comments and we will answer them throughout the week or whenever you've watched the video. Of course, we'll be back next Thursday at 6 p.m. Word of the day, Tristan. I'm putting you on the spot. What's word of the day for you?
Crazy.
Sanjay?
Bonkers.
I knew you were going to say it.
Neil?
There's only one word, bonkers, absolutely.
Yeah.
Or late.
Or late. Yeah. Yeah.
That's a good one, yeah.
Busy bee.
I'll go with avocado. There we go. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of the evening. I don't know what everyone's going to do this weekend because it's a football break. So, yeah, just enjoy yourself. It's the last week. Yeah, you've got 4 open houses. Enjoy. See you all soon.